Hello and welcome to Game Brain, a board game podcast about our gaming group. I'm Ben Mandelker, and joining me today is Paul Satachet. Hi, Paul. How are you?
It's me, Satachet. Hey, everyone.
It's you. What's going on?
Oh, same old. Beautiful Saturday. I'm indoors, in studio.
In studio. We are here. Today, we are going to be reviewing Men-Nefer.
Or is it Men-Nefer?
Or Men-Nefer. Men-Nefer.
I don't know. I don't speak ancient Egyptian.
We're going to say Men-Nefer because Men-Nefer is too close to Ben-Nefer. And Ben-Nefer is a cursed union of celebrities.
Love it. I think your thought process is unreproachable.
Unparalleled. And I think that we don't want to curse this poor game. That's not fair.
Yeah, no.
Well, let's not get the stank of J-Lo and Ben Affleck on this game.
Although it's it has mummies in it, and and ancient Egypt,
which are two things we associate obviously with J-Lo.
But with curses.
That's true. So it is very curse forward.
Curse forward, yeah, that's right.
So we are here. So our group is all about everywhere. So Trey is in Texas, Matt is going to England, Tom is somewhere in Vietnam, Jordan's just in Highland Park.
Yeah, he's in Eagle Rock. Oh my God! And talk about crazy place. I'll be in Atlanta Wednesday, so everyone's going to the winds for a bit.
Yeah.
So we apologize.
Yeah. So it's guess what? It's Ben and Paul again. But no, I think Jordan is playing Guardians of Atlantis or Guardian of Atlantis. I get some sort of I feel like
it should be plural, right? Because there are two teams at the very least.
Let me see. Is it
and it's not like in Atlantis doesn't seem right. So
Guardians of Atlantis. Yeah. Oh no. Guards of Atlantis too. It feels like it should be Guardians.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I want Guardians. I guess is there more a custodial element to a Guardian? And a Guardian is going to a guard is just going to protect you. A Guardian is going to protect and take care of you, right?
I suppose. Yeah. Okay. I think you've won me over. Are they playing? Is it a big group? Is it 3-on-3? Is it 2-on-2?
I think it's 3-on-3. I think he's at Candace is doing it, which is great. Did anyone ever tell the Guardians that Atlantis is going to sink, though? They're doing a lot of work for a sinking island.
Well, we watched 3 hours of Titanic,
That's true. We do love a sinking thing.
I guess, did the new guards come out or something? Is it just a regular session?
I think Guards of Atlantis, the new Kickstarter, is arriving because Matt Robinson was very excited. He got his stuff. So he was, get that microphone up on your face, Paul. There we go. Sorry, everyone, if Paul was a little quiet. His stuff was arriving. By the way, speaking of Kickstarter arrivals, I was very surprised to see I got an email saying that my copy of Galactic Cruise is on its way, and I had no idea. Now, do you know anything about this game, Galactic Cruise?
It turns out I don't.
No, yeah. Well, it's a very fun game. I played it on TTS, and I'm really excited for the physical version, although I'm afraid the physical version's enormous. I cannot stand the big box anymore, only because I've got space limitations. And so I actually am very resentful when game publishers overstuff stuff for Kickstarter, because it's I have to deal with that now. But
that is some cruise ship level problems there.
That is some Galactic Cruise ship. That is some Carnival Cruise Line. But anyway, it's I've only played it on TTS. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And you're basically you're in charge of you're a company that puts together space cruises, and you have to build your spaceships, and you have to get your passengers, and you have to advertise, and then when they're up there in space, you have to make sure that their journey is actually really the sort of journey that they want. And you have you can build different components of your spaceship. There's a place for families, a place for recreation, a place for nightlife, and then different passengers want to see different kind of planets, and you're just organizing it all. And it was very fun, and I just backed it kind of on a whim. So I'm excited to get that to the table very soon, probably next week.
I when you say that, I think of two things. I think of The Fifth Element, the second act of Fifth Element, because there's nothing better than, alien opera with Bruce Willis shooting everyone.
I never saw it.
Oh, well, yeah. It's a classic. Yeah. And the short-lived Star Wars cruise hotel where they that also short-lived.
Was that the one that Trey was talking about, where it was you go in and you do a big LARP in there?
A little bit, yep.
Yeah. I think it should be fun. It's It sort of presents like a Lacerda game, but it's not. It's actually not as complicated.
I can't think of a cruise ship game of any like a board game about cruise ships at all.
I would love more cruise ship games.
Do you? Have you been on a cruise?
I've been on one cruise, which was interesting. It's not like I have a love of cruise that I want to see therefore reflected in my games. I just think like I'm always down for a theme that's not represented. Like I want to see a cruise ship game. I want to see a soap opera game. I want to see themes that are just different and exciting,
No.
So Galactic Cruise, I'm really excited for. I think that's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be actually kind of delight forward.
That's a bold statement.
No, just the theme of like putting together this cruise ship. I think it's going to be, I think where it may have challenges. My impression of it when I played it twice is that it presents like it's going to be like a really, really crunchy Euro, and it's not. It's like it's more midweight than it appears. So I think that the midweight haters in the hobby and in our group may not love it, but I think for people who want to put together a Kathy Lee Gifford style Carnival cruise line in space,
love it. Or Shaquille O'Neal, he's a cruise person now too, right?
Oh, is he?
I think so.
Well, there was just a Super Bowl ad there was a Super Bowl ad about a cruise starring two celebrities, and I can't remember which celebrities they were. So, that's something fun for everyone. So, yeah, that's coming in soon. I also got delivery of
Wall-E, another space cruise.
Yeah. And then I got a Baseball Highlights expansions came in also. I'm excited to revisit that. And also, the Dark Cities Kickstarter fulfilled. So that's like Tortuga and Hollywood 1947 Deluxeified. And then randomly, Stroganov, same designer at Andreas Stetting of Hansa Teutonica. We played Stroganov.
I like Stroganov.
Stroganov was fun, right?
Stroganov had this weird, like, I don't say mystical, but like, looking at the artwork, I go like, oh, I lived here in a past life.
Yeah, I unfurled that board, and I've never seen Paul have a reaction like that. You were kind of breathless, or you lost your breath for a moment.
Sans breath.
You were like, look at this sweeping view. You were really into it.
I had this like LSD style trip where I was like, oh, I think I used to live here.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Yeah, it's got beautiful art. The gameplay is so strange. It is a really strange gameplay. I didn't love it, but I also felt like it's the sort of game that you could grow to love.
Sure.
And so a Kickstarter came out for an expansion. It was like an expansion and like a big box and yada yada. And I guess on a whim, I was like,
because you love those big boxes.
Well, it's the big box is not like a big box. It just is like a box that contains
a baby big box.
Both. So I kind of felt like this might be a situation where an expansion might help, like
contract.
Like it might, like whatever I felt like was just missing, the expansion might do what I needed to do.
Sure.
So I backed it, and then they sent it to me, and I forgot, and they just sent me a whole other copy of the game, which is kind of funny. I got the Deluxeified copy.
Oh wow.
And then the company is shut down, so now it's like I have it, and now I have it. So like I kind of want to revisit Stroganov a little bit.
No, sure.
There's so many games to revisit.
I think that's a valid way to look at the universe.
Thank you. And a great way to look at the universe is via a cruise ship.
That's right.
Space.
That's right. Exactly. Well done.
Can I just want to say, we recently on the Game Brain, we've been dropping some table scraps, which is like basically a new video chat show on YouTube. And the plan is to do table scraps episodes sort of concurrently with Game Brain episodes. So one's not replacing the other. But Table Scraps is largely going to live on YouTube, but every now and then we'll pull a Table Scraps episode and drop it here on the feed, especially if like it's a week where no one's available to record. Maybe we'll drop some Table Scraps in. So that's my humble way of saying go over and subscribe to Table Scraps.
I like the phrase that like sometimes we'll drop some Table Scraps in.
We'll drop some table scraps. You guys will get some Table Scraps.
That's right.
There's actually the YouTube channel is like brand new, as in like made it like a few days ago. There's only 2 full episodes on, because if some of you may know, the first episode, the camera, there really had an issue with the video. So it's a small channel, and if you go there and it looks like sad and barren, it looks like an empty house.
It's because it is. For now.
Last time I checked it, there were 7 subscribers.
Wow.
So
I don't think
we're shooting for 10.
That's like I'll subscribe soon.
I just also want to say, if you go over there and say, this is sad, I'm not going to subscribe, that's okay. I will accept that. That seems fair. That seems like a fair note.
But just so you know, like when it becomes like hundreds of millions of subscribers, you could have been number 10.
Yeah, just know.
Just know, like, no FOMO.
Yeah, no FOMO. Don't have FOMO. Like, get in now. Get an early bird special on all the nothing you'll get.
Like, there's some avant-garde topics, like, like what's the best shape?
So yeah, best shape in board gaming. We had a lot of fun discussing that.
Or how to trick a celebrity.
Yeah, how to trick a celebrity into joining your game group. Really, pressing issues in the gaming community. But anyway, the whole vibe of Table Scraps is just like chatting about gaming, but sort of more like not necessarily like going granular with games like we do on Game Brain. Game Brain, this is like we're reviewing, talking about game sessions and everything, and that one's just more like having fun and just like talking about shit, but through the lens of gaming, So with that being said, should we talk about some recent plays, Paul?
Sure. Let's. You and I have played a few games together.
We have. I feel like I haven't seen anyone in the group in like a month.
Everyone's just scattered to the winds.
Well, I was traveling for like 3 weeks, so I didn't see anyone. I was scattered to the wind, and now I've returned.
Tom left like in like late January.
Yeah,
and so he's gonna be gone all of February. So our Fridays are in flux.
Yeah. Fridays are in flux. Like, by the way, I have to give a big shout out to Paul right here. This Paul, right? You.
Oh, me?
Yeah, because I did a big show in New York City for Watch for Crappens, and you helped out so immensely that I just have to give a huge shout out to you and express my gratitude on a public platform.
Well, thank you, Ben. I accept your gratitude.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. You made life much easier there on Broadway.
Very fun. Very fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. Okay, so recent plays. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's talk about, how you managed my mind.
I managed Paul's mind. We played Mind Management, Mind MGMT, which came out, about 3 years ago or so? But why don't you tell everyone about it?
So it's a hidden movement game. It's, the theme is kind of fun. It's a little X-Men-esque. Like there are people like it never really plays. You don't, but having the backstory is fun.
Yeah.
Like basically there is this person who is trying to recruit people with powers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hidden movement person. And everyone else is playing people with powers trying to capture this shadowy recruiter before they take all the X-Men and put them to slave labor or something
like that. It's basically like the recruiter. It's a one versus many game. Mm-hmm. And like the one who has the shield and is doing all the hidden movement is ostensibly trying to quote unquote like recruit people because they represent an agency that's going to do good things in this world
or bad things. How?
But we're like actually the bad guys, and then like the X-Men psychic power people are actually the good guys that were it's all that kind of bullshit.
Yeah,
but we actually, by the way, and just for you, for the record, we did review this game back when it came out, back in like 2021 or so, because it came out in 2021, and the designers are Jay Cormier and Sen Fung Lim. So we have reviewed it before, but it's been a while since we touched base on it. So yeah, we just wanted to refresh everyone on what this game. It's a hidden movement game, and like, I mean, you don't even have to get granular. It's basically, I think what is the shtick of it. There's actually a big shtick that we didn't even lean into, which is that as you play it, you unlock these elements that you like sort of build into the game. But the shtick of the hidden movement is that you have a board, you have this map of Zanzibar, and it's got a grid, and every square in the grid has two sort of landmarks or features on it. Like maybe there'll be a parrot, and maybe there'll be some dogs, or maybe there'll be a bus or a tuk-tuk. And
I will say, it's very generous for you to call it a map of Zanzibar.
Well, it is based off of a graphic novel, and so it's a graphic novel version of Zanzibar, or part of Zanzibar.
Sure. Yeah.
But the point is that, like me, as the person who's doing the hidden movement, I've got to visit certain features in order to achieve my goals, and so the other players, as the psychic agents, are trying to figure out which features I'm going to, and just try to track me down and capture me
before time runs out, or the recruiter recruits 16 in our case 16
12 recruits. Yeah, I've got
fledgling X-Men. Yeah,
yeah. But I'm recruiting people.
Yeah. So
I was the one behind the shield, and excuse me, I just burped into the microphone.
Oh
of the
no,
podcast.
Ben.
That is so rude. But I was the one behind the shield, and Paul, Candace, and Matt. Is that Matt number 3?
I think Matt's number 3.
Yeah, that's Candace's Matt. They were the psychic agents, and I was trying to evade them, and it was so stressful. It's so stressful.
Like, you manage our minds.
I did, though. I evaded them. It was very
Ben won,
exciting.
and this is the first time that Ben's won in my presence.
Yeah,
and normally around halfway, like the pressure, like Ben cracks. And this time, I was like, oh, this is not.
I cracked so hard because I always try to. The reason why I crack is that I'm like, oh, they're closing in on me. Let me do something sneaky, and then I get caught. Doing my sneakiness.
Here is the thing that was the most amazing, and without sounding condescending, but it's going to sound condescending. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Is that
I'm proud of me too.
At the very last move, like Ben snuck into Candace's spot, and Candace could have just said, "I'm going to capture here." But Candace moved out of that spot, and Ben did an ultra sneaky move, and throughout the whole of the game, I think we played for 2 hours because it was a longer game.
The game's supposed to go really like an hour to 90 minutes, and we did like 2.5 hours. But it was great because it was like full of discussion and
so throughout the whole game, like literally, like the moment Ben like starts the game, I go, Ben's addicted to sneaky. He's gonna try to do sneaky moves, and so we're trying to figure it all out. I'm saying, oh, here's a sneaky move he would make it at the very last bit. He did a sneaky move, but it was so sneaky that I did not think it was within the locus of sneaky points that he could have done. It was a super sneaky move.
It was actually like a Kaiser Soze move. It was like, guess 100%. What? I've been next to you this whole time.
So it was very, very good. I was very impressed.
I mean, basically what was so funny was that I started in the center of the board, and then I went out to the perimeter, and then I was sort of like walking around the perimeter, but you guys picked up my trail on the perimeter very close to where I was, and you guys built a theory that I had started on the outside and worked to the inside. And so a lot of that colored your view of where I was. And so I was able to really benefit from you guys just sort of basing everything off of a flawed concept. Mm-hmm. And then, but then like your flawed concept did sort of coincidentally you guys sort of came to me. But at that point you were trending south and I trended north. And what it meant was on the last turn,
we Benjamin Button and met in the middle.
Yeah. I basically, at that point I had already passed you guys, but you guys kept on heading south. And I could move in one of like 3 places. And I was like, if you think of like left, middle, right, and Candace is standing in the middle, and I could go to the right where I could have picked up a recruit, which I didn't really need to do, or I could have gone to the left, which would have been whatever, or I could have gone to where Candace was. And I thought, I don't think Candace is going to capture where she is, but there is potentially a chance that she decides to move one to the left or even one to the right. But I don't think she's going to stay where she is. So I walked up to where Candace was. It was like I was behind her, whispering in her ear, saying, "Go somewhere else."
You like sneak up behind her, invisible as you go, "You ain't shit. You ain't shit.
I'm still here."
That's right.
And it was
you managed our minds. It was very good.
So at one point, though, Paul, you had a theory that you needed to go southward. You needed to go southward to look for me.
Sure.
And then Matt had a theory that actually needed to focus in a different part of the board for me. And your theory, I felt like your theory was actually very strong, and that would have made my job harder. Mm-hmm. But Matt was very convinced that his theory was the right one. And I said to you, Paul, this is your Traitors moment. This is when you have to convince someone, Matt had built a theory on a big flaw, and yours was still built on a flaw, but you had some logic behind it. Mm-hmm. But he was attached to his flaw in a way that happens
emotionally.
It's not a Matt problem. This is what happens with humans. Yeah. And I was like, this is your moment to convince someone that they're voting out the wrong person at the Traitors. And how did that?
How did that go?
We know how it went. You didn't succeed, but like, but what was your takeaway from that?
Well, it's really interesting. Like, no, we're getting no money for this, but like, Traitors is so good.
It's so good
on Peacock. You should be watching it. And I know there are some people on this podcast who think that it is not a good game, and that remains to be seen.
Yes,
but it is an amazing show.
It's an amazing show. I mean, it's an amazing show despite some major flaws. Like the competitions really are like they need to be improved in terms of like relevancy. Although this week's competition was so laugh out loud funny.
It was clear.
I was like, it doesn't matter that it has no strategic benefit. It is just worth it for the entertainment.
That's right. I think I was in the shower thinking about this, the show, and I was thinking about how the show really it's advanced game theory. Like, like in game theory, like here's, play this game, assume everyone is choosing optimal strategy. It dictates what you play. And that's really great, assuming that everyone plays with optimal strategy. But what Traitors show, which is more of a parallel to the world, is that actually, no, people don't play with optimal strategy. And it turns out that if you're playing with optimal strategy and someone is not, it changes your whole dynamic in a way that you have to shift to a different mode of thinking to accommodate that. And I think a lot of game players don't.
Yeah.
They don't. And then they get upset. Why aren't you playing the right way?
Yes.
And the answer is actually, this is the right way is
the way they're playing.
Like what we're playing when everyone plays with the same paradigm is a very special limited version. It's like Einstein versus, like special relativity versus general relativity. Like, it's really, the general version is actually a lot more complex.
Yeah.
It's a lot like when you watch like great poker players play like at the tournament, and they win millions and millions of dollars. That is a special case. Like, you go to Vegas and you could be an amazing poker player, and this dummy comes in and just goes all in, and they could take your thing because they got lucky.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately skill pays off over time.
Right.
And, and so in this particular case, I did not have a lot of time to really convince Matt, not in terms of minutes, but like this would be, it require I'd either have to really be forceful about it and hurt the game of game night, or I would just have to go like, oh, I'm going to take this suboptimal move and maybe we can adjust. Because truthfully, I didn't know where you were. Like I had a strong theory. I thought my theory was better, but Matt was very determined to go like, oh, this is how I'm feeling about this. And I was going, yeah, no, you are feeling about this. I go, I don't know if I'm going to like shame your feeling into, and I don't have the wherewithal to transmute your feelings into my thing that doesn't require some form of like, appeal to my game experience or how you're playing it wrong.
Because then you might have to pull a card like trust me, I played these games a lot. I know what you're saying, but like we're gonna go my way. Like it becomes like you'd have to pull like a domineering, condescending card.
Yeah, and
it's not worth it. Especially also realistically, me knowing exactly where I was and where I was moving. Your theory was right, but it wasn't going to yield you the results that you wanted because I was already past you. But Matt wanted to look in the whole area that I wasn't in at all.
I would go so far as to say like even if I knew exactly where you were, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it because like you want, because I'm very much about the vibe of the night and the game, and to me he was already so passionate about his choice, which you should never be passionate about your choices when it comes to it. Should either be like, oh, this looks like it's going to be right and this isn't going to be right. Like, I don't know, maybe, you should always, but when you go like, this is what it is, they go like, you have incomplete information. There's no way you know this is right. You're just feeling like it's right.
Right.
And so to your point, I go like, in Traitors, this is where I would have let a friend die because it would make the game last longer for me.
Yes, and on top of that, you would also get credibility into the next vote.
Exactly.
Because one thing that we've seen on Traitors, I'm going to try to say this in a way that's like not very spoilery for people who are behind or haven't watched, but like one thing that we've seen in multiple seasons and we see again this season, and is that you have a moment where someone presents pretty unassailable evidence. Well, it's assailable because there's not complete evidence.
Yeah.
We had about 2 weeks ago. We watched an episode, I think that was when we were watching in New York, where someone said, listen, I think it's this person because
X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, Z. And when this happened, they did this. And when this happened, they did this. And now I'm going to defer to this other person who can back up my story. And the other person said, and I will add on to it. This person, when this happened, when so-and-so said, I think it's one of these people, this person immediately was like they were gone. So like, I know this sounds crazy if you're not like what
if you're not watching Traitors or
this person, but the point is that like there were two people who provided a good amount of evidence, and then one person goes, yeah, but like the thing is that you're pretty aggressive, and then like even though
his logic,
even though logic was and not complete, information, but like at least there were arguments that were based off of the things that happened.
The flow of logic was intact. So if the premises were correct, then the result would be correct.
And ultimately, someone was voted off because of vibes instead of, it's not fact, but strong arguments and more like and I think that's what's. People say, oh, well, Traitors is like, there's no good strategy on the show, yada. And I would actually argue that this season there's been more. I think they like Boston Rob has been someone who has approached it with like real game theory and really, but I think the value of Traitors is like what we're seeing are these are people having to convince other people of things with uncertain information, and like what we see on Traitors is then paralleled right away in something like Mind Management, where you two people don't have complete information, but like, I think someone is here. I think someone's here. Someone's feeling more emotional about it. Someone's feeling more like they have a stronger sort of logic based reasoning, and trying to bridge that gulf is like totally fascinating.
Well, I would say like if the end result was like, if we don't get this right, we die, like literally die, I would probably.
But it's like, but the end result is more like, okay, well, I'll bite my tongue and we'll see how this shakes out. And at the end of the game, I'll probably be vindicated and it'll be all fun and games.
And truth be told, I don't know if the person realizes, like, even post game, that they made a wrong choice.
But I think what's also interesting with these games, the psychology of it is, especially watching Traitors, we sit there and say, how are these people so dumb? Like, the evidence is all right there. That thing just happened. But I did watch in Mind Management when you guys are tracing me down. You're Paul, everyone there, smart people, and you've played a lot of these kind of games, and this is sort of like your wheelhouse. But even I watched you have blind spots.
Sure.
And so I think that's what's these games kind of remind you that like we all have our Achilles heels, and like you might think you're a great strategist and you would like go on to the Traitors or play Mind Management and just have it all wrapped around your finger. But the truth is, like you said before, when you're playing with people of different kind of skill levels and different backgrounds or approaches, it's like they can all go to shit.
Like you can't adhere to your game theory level 1 game theory. Everyone's playing optimal strategy when people are not. Like that's the problem, right? I think a lot of problems, people get frustrated or whatever when, and I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of it when people are like, there's a weaker person playing a game and then someone takes advantage of that. For me, I go like, that's really low. You have more experience. We should bring this person up to a higher level. But in real life, like that's actually more of how things are. Like people predate. Is that the right word? Like predator predate on the weak. This sounds really like dark now, but that's how it goes. So I really find it interesting how what happens is we we wind up holding on to our paradigms. Like I held on to a paradigm during the game. Sorry for monologuing, but like, where basically Ben is going to be sneaky, and more importantly, Ben's going to start in the corner. There was no reason why I needed to keep that Ben in the corner bit, except for the fact that if I look back at it, I go like, oh, I would start in the corner.
Right.
I just go like, oh, I was starting to work because if you start in the center, like you're going to cause yourself some difficulty probably.
Right. But actually, by the way, you're supposed to they say like, maybe I should have shared this because I didn't even think about it, but like it said in the rules, it says like, don't start on the sides.
Oh,
it says like, it's like, that's an advanced, it doesn't, you can do it. Yeah. It says that's an advanced play. But to be fair, even if it says that's an advanced play, knowing me and my love of the sneak, I might still start at the corner anyway.
So like one paradigm I had correct, but I didn't extend it to infinity. And the other paradigm I just had completely wrong. And like, you make a choice, like, so I stand by it. I lost. I got managed.
You did. It was just, you got managed.
And here's the thing, as I said before, I don't mind being manipulated as long as it's done skillfully, which you did. So congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, one of the fun parts in that game is when you have to like reveal parts of like where your path is, and everyone thinks you're in one corner, and then you reveal a spot and you're like all the way somewhere else, and everyone goes, whoa. That's my favorite. Anyway, Mind Management's a great game. Yeah. It is my favorite hidden movement game. Although does Tragedy Looper count as hidden movement? It's sort of, not really. No. Mind Management is wonderful. Okay, so then afterwards, Candace busted out an old game called Serenissima. So this game, Serenissima. This game, I first heard about this game probably 2017 or 18. I was driving down to Orange County. For some reason, I have a vivid memory of this. Driving down the 5.
Miley Cyrus on the radio.
I put my hands up. I said, partying the Serenissima. But I was listening to the Secret Cabal podcast, and they were talking about this game, and it sounded really cool. And later that day, I went on to BGG and I read about it, and I put it in my Amazon cart. It was one of those things like buy now, save for later, buy now, save for later. For years, Serenissima sat in my Amazon cart, and I never touched it. I think at one point I finally was like, you know what, Ben, just remove it, Ben. So I removed it. And then we go over to Candace's, and she's like, have you heard of this game? And I was like, oh, yes, I have. We got to play it. So we played it. And this game, the original one came out in, I think, 1996.
Oh, wow.
And then a second edition in 2012 by Dominique Earhart, who did Contidiere, which is a card game that Shut Up and Sit Down lauded. I actually have a copy of that, and I've only played it once, which makes me sad. And also the designer did some other games, which I can't remember. So just know it's Contidiere. But like, can you tell people about Serenissima, how it plays, what's going on with this game?
Sure. You're in the Mediterranean. I assume you're probably around the Renaissance-esque era because there's Venice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically what you're trying to do is get the most points. There are 3 scoring phases. The way you get points is control ports, and ultimately money equals points. So you're getting the most money. Whoever the most money wins. During these scoring phases, you wind up scoring the port you control and how many trade routes these ports have established. Mm-hmm. And then you also can battle to steal people's stuff, or pirate, I suppose that's what it is. Or you can go about raiding people's ports and taking over their ports. You can also wind up building forts and what's the other one? Basilicas to get more money or more defense. And that's really about it. And it sounds like, I think what we described was like, this is a dusty old Euro.
Dusty old Euro. It's a DOE. DOE.
And I have to say, it was delightful.
I loved it.
We played Mind Management, and it was a longer game than we had anticipated. And then Candace, in true Candace form, just goes in and goes, and here's the game I want to play. It's my birthday, so we're playing this.
It was 10:30, and after my management was done, I got so tired. Yeah. I had a very busy day, and I got really tired. But I was like, We're gonna play this game.
And so she is basically reading the rule book to us. Fortunately, it's only 7 pages.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like she had absorbed this game and knew how the best way to teach it.
This was a spontaneous choice.
She just read the rule book to us. And there was a point where I looked over to Ben and go like, Ben's gonna die.
I got so sleepy, and I'm like a late night person, but I was so sleepy. I was like, okay, I want to play this, but we
pushed through.
We pushed through, and like we didn't finish the game. We played until like 1 a.m, and like I was so tired, and I had a rough go of it. Like Candace like killed, like she like beat me out of a port like right before scoring, so I missed out on scoring, and then there was another scoring I didn't get a part of. But I have to say, I really enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, no, it was great. It had a simplicity that I think maybe I haven't played this level of Euro in a while. Maybe we moved into like a lot of different things, 18xx's or Station Fall, or like the whole different genres of games. But just a pure, simple, like light to medium Euro with a little bit of combat.
It's a medium. I mean, well, it's weird. I don't really know what defines light, because to me, a light game is like a party game. Okay, but I don't know. Maybe if party games are their own separate category of lightness, it's still like light to medium. What was so interesting about it is, you're basically just like moving these ships around, and like there's something about moving ships on a board that is like inherently very fun. It's very playful. It's tactile, and you're like you're slotting your sailors in, which are just blue pegs, and you're slotting them or red pegs. So there's pegs. Slotting them into your ships and moving them around. It's kind of like when you fill up like a Fisher Price bus, with those people, and you send it down like your floor. But what was so surprising to me was that there was like, I think actually like a huge amount of depth in this game.
Yeah, like I started off the game, like, so we were playing 3 players. The first thing you do is you block off 4 ports of resources. And for whatever reason, the way that we chose it, we blocked off like almost a section of the game.
Greece, basically.
Yeah, like Greece, Estonia, right?
Definitely not
Croatia.
Estonia.
Croatia, Greece, Croatia, Macedonia, all those places were dead. And then there was Constantinople, and so I was last to pick a port, and Ben picked Genoa.
Yeah.
Candace picked Alexandria, and the only other place was either Venice, which was in the middle of nowhere, or Constantinople, which was also in the middle of nowhere. And I was going like, my training says I'm going to bitch about balance. Like that's my trade.
Which, by the way, I'm so glad you didn't, because like one of my pet peeves is when there's like starting and people are like, I don't get compensation. It's like, oh, you get an extra coin. That's better. It's like, okay, that makes like when people complain about like opening compensation, I just think it's so silly.
So I was like, I'm gonna trust. I'm gonna go in faith like that. This isn't gonna be a problem. So I just made a bold move early. That wasn't really that bold. I just moved into the center of the map, and that was totally fine.
No, you were great. You were in a great position, and the 3 of us were doing wildly different things. I went in this path where I was exporting spice all across the Mediterranean, and spice is worth more. So I was getting extra money from that. But I was also weaker than you guys, because you guys, Candace did this amazing thing. I was controlling a certain port. She came in, she knocked me out of the port, and then there was a scoring right away. And the scoring, depending on like controlling ports and stuff, you get money. So I was at a money deficit because I had fewer ports than you guys, and yada yada yada.
To the point where basically I had 17 income, Candace had 12, and Ben had 3.
Yeah, and then another time it was like 9, 6, whatever. I was behind, and so like it started to feel like a feel bad moment, and then I was like, it doesn't have to be a feel bad moment. It could just be a funny moment. Let's just have fun with this. Yeah. And it was funny but then you became a powerhouse, and then Candace was sort of like a secondary powerhouse, and I was like a meager one, and you guys could have started picking on me. But it was like the smarter thing was for you guys to pick on each other, which we were just sort of starting to get to that part of the game before it was like, we got to call it. But I was like, if I can play this right, maybe they will go after each other, and I'll just do my sneak, and I'll just send my boat from island to island, and and like sell some spice here, sell some spice there. Maybe I'll just make quiet money in the meantime.
If Candace were a more bloodthirsty person, which I wouldn't never change her, but what I would have said to her is like, look, Ben doesn't have a lot of money right now. If we just kill him, you can take a boat. I will take a boat. I can take a boat until
you could have 100% done that.
And then he will have nothing except for
my one boat, because I have your starting whatever. But that would in a way that would have been a feel bad moment. But that almost, when I watch Survivor and there's always like a tribe that gets totally picked apart and there's one person left, at a certain point the people who get like reduced down to nothing, they suddenly find themselves in a power position, because then the two people that have been fighting like that realize that they're kind of like they're sort of like equally matched, and they need to get a competitive edge. And then it's that third it's those.
Sure. So
then I was like, I would have been interesting if I could have found a wedge. I would have gone into pure Ben sneaky wedge.
I think
there was a lot of,
but you were a stick and I'm the wedge.
Yeah, I was a stick. I would love to play it again, and of course I looked to see. I was like, maybe I should get a copy. And of course now you can't get it anywhere. You can spend $125 for it, which I will not do. But now I'm like so sad that I never bought it all those years again. So this is why, when it's in your cart, just buy it. That's what I'm going to say right now. When it's in your cart, buy it.
Like literally, we started this conversation off with like, I hate a big box. I have no space. Blah, blah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't I want the footprint of my box to not be that big.
Yeah,
so that way I have room for my Serenissimas.
Yeah, Serenissima.
It was really good, and there was just lots of cool. Like, it was an interesting balance between like battling each other, which was really fun and hilarious, versus pick up and deliver, doing the economic game. And then there's a whole other thing about like the boats. Everyone has these boats, and the boats will activate in a certain order. So you choose which boat you want. Do you want something that's later? So there's like a whole strategy and how you decide to purchase boats, where to purchase boats, which boats to purchase, what ports you want to do, how do you want to fulfill them. Like there's actually so much there, and I cannot wait to play it again.
No, it's delightful. That's why I describe it as.
I think it needs a re-release. I would love to see it at 5 players. I think there's like a variant with 5 players.
Okay.
And I'd like to see it with some of the rules kind of like another pass at the rules. They're a little ambiguous at times. But
maybe dragons.
Dragons would be great. Who am I lying? I want boats. I want boats on waterways. I played a game called Landmarks, which
I saw you buy it. When I inside see,
that's right. I bought it in New York City.
Yep,
it was in my hotel room. It's kind of like an iteration on code names. But
with landmarks.
Not really. The fluff is that there's like the board. Yeah, there's a board that's like a cloth. It's like an island, and it's covered with hexagons. And there are going to be 3 words. Like each hexagon is going to be a word, and so there's going to be 3 words that are on tiles that you put in the middle of the island somewhere.
Hexagon, good
hexagons. Shape. Yeah, good shape. And there's the idea is that like everyone around the table is like a group that is on the island and got like lost or something. And there's one person who stayed back at base camp with a walkie-talkie and is trying to guide them back to
base camp.
But the walkie-talkie is like shitty, and so all you can hear is just like broken words. So you can hear just like a word. So I might say something like potato.
As one does.
It's like, okay, when you said potato, did you mean go in this direction or that direction? And so what you do is you look at the words in the hexes. So maybe you have butter. Maybe one hex says butter, and maybe an adjacent hex says vegetable.
Okay.
So you might say, oh, potato. He probably meant to, because I'll write the word potato on a hex. And maybe people say, oh, he probably wanted us to put this hex right here next to butter and vegetables. They put it down there. And once you put down the hex, I will say, you've maybe fallen into a trap. Maybe you found a treasure. Maybe you found some water. Maybe you found the exit. Maybe you got to the goal. So it's like code names, like a directional or geographical code names. And it was very fun. It was cool. Very, very fun. It's one I would really love to play with a group again.
I'm sure you'll have the chance.
I'm sure I will. And then in terms of other light games, DroPolter. Thoughts on DroPolter? Can you tell everyone about DroPolter?
This is probably the most advanced game that I've played in the last 7 years. Basically, you have 7 items in your hand, and
is it 7 or is it 5?
5.
I think it's 5.
Oh, is it 5? a number of items, probably 5. Different shapes, and what you have to do is when the card is flipped, drop only those shapes, and if you do, grab the what you grab? Is it?
There's a ghost.
There's a
little wooden ghost.
Grab the ghost, very thematic, and then you get a bell, and you put that in your hand, and then you repeat. If you get 5 bells, you win. But if you drop a bell, if you drop a bell, the bell is gone forever. And if you drop the wrong item, you have to pick up all the items you have dropped minus the bells and put them back in your hands again. So it is like I do feel like it is pretty advanced because you could play this with a 4-year-old and they would have a good time. Yeah, 4 to 100.
Yeah,
like it is remarkably fun. We have not played the advanced variant yet, which I'm excited to try.
Oh, that's when you can't look.
Like the basic variant, you hold your hands face up and then release, but like the advanced is your face down and release.
Oh yeah.
And so I've played it maybe 3 times, but like I like it's a rare thing that I play a game and go, oh, this is a lifestyle game.
A lifestyle? What does that mean?
Well, where you're going to play this forever. Like, yeah. Like this is. I mean, we talked. This game came out in 2023, so it could not make it onto our best of. Yeah. But if it were a 2024 game, like this would be a top 10 game of the year. Like I think it's top 5. It might beat Atlas. That's how good. Because not because like you get the same stuff as Atlas, but like as far as like, remember, I'm looking for a vibe. I'm looking for all that stuff. This cuts to the joy so quickly. It's so quick, like, and you might want to build track or you want all, but like this, if you want joy, it gets to what it is like immediately, faster than any game that I can think of.
It's actually such a smart game because there's like real thought in terms of the shapes that you have to hold. Like one is a ring. The ring is the worst because the ring gets caught on things and like, so you're trying to drop that ring, but like there's some shape that's like stuck inside it. There's like a clover. There's like a weird sort of square that's made of circles. I can't believe we didn't talk about this on our Table Scraps shape episode. This was a game of like shapes. Yeah. And there are just all these things. And so you're trying to like maneuver them out, and there's like a shell and there's textures. And like what happens is that I find myself clutching really hard on these things. And you actually don't have to clutch hard. You just have to have like a soft way about it. And it's so exciting. And there's just nonstop laughter every single time.
One of the things that we didn't mention is like the bells are tiny.
The bells are teeny tiny little sleigh bells.
So they're cute to watch, but they slip out of your hands. And here's the thing: you have a number. Like eventually, you're going to get to like 3 or 4 bells, and they're a burden.
Yes.
And then you hold tighter, and then you start sweating.
Yes.
It's all
like you're trying to move that ring out. You're trying to drop that ring, and like you have those bells, so you can't just fecklessly drop things and hope for the best. Like it is, and then you could be up. You're at like 4 bells. I'm almost there, and then something happens, and then
3 bells drop.
To me, speaking of Survivor, something like this would be the perfect thing for Survivor because one thing I find when I watch Survivor or like any reality show challenge is that like sometimes when people are on the verge of winning, it's like just so obvious that they're going to win, especially if they're doing a puzzle.
Sure.
Like if they've got 10 pieces that they've got to fit together, when they get 7 pieces in, now they only have 3 pieces to choose from. So the rate at which they close in on victory goes up even faster and faster. Sure. So people who are behind, it's not so easy. But when they do like a thing where you have to balance a lot of stuff, things can go wrong any moment. It could always be a restart. So this would be a great kind of thing for Survivor of like holding things but having to drop things, and
I think
it's so fun, and it's like a little cheap oink game. I would say to anyone, if they see it in a store, just buy it because you will have fun with everyone with this.
Yeah, it's very good.
Although asterisk, obviously there's sort of like an ableist. There is an ableist privilege in it, obviously, because you're holding things and picking things and dropping them off. So there is that element that I feel like I should mention. But I think it is a super, super fun game.
100%.
And by the way, a game I wanted to give a shout out to our friend Brendan Fong. He came out with this game, We Need to Talk, a trick-taking and shedding game about letting go. Brendan, he's a great guy. He is so great, and he made this game. I don't know if we've talked about it yet on the podcast, but he self-published this trick-taking game. Space Biff recently wrote a very warm, a very strong review for it, which is great. I'm so happy that Brendan got that exposure. And, you know, we want, like, I think if you see this game, it is really fun. It's basically a game. The thematic is a relationship, the rise and fall of a relationship. So the first half of the game is trick taking. And so you're the tricks are memories. So you're kind of like, you're collecting all these wonderful memories because you're in this relationship, and every card is like a moment in the relationship. And Brendan did the art too. And then the second half of the game is a shedding game because now the relationship is over. So you're trying to shed all these memories, very like eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, right? And it was a very fun and clever game. And you know, definitely check it out and try to get a copy. Obviously, it's a really small run, but I know Brendan is probably going to be trying to do another print run of it. Sure. And I guess like if there's some way to signal to him that you're interested, he'll know how many to make or whatever. But it's a great game, and I'm like so proud of him.
It's very fun. Game. Like it creates a little narrative. Like like not the rise and fall of relationships. Like, you know, it
just is a relationship.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, and you tell like a little story as you play the game. So check that out. We need to talk a trick-taking and shedding game about letting go. And then lastly, the last game I want to talk about, Hooky. Hooky is a deduction game I learned about from Candace on the Board Game Geek podcast. And in Hooky, we are playing classroom teachers, and the kids are coming in at like an elementary school, and the kids are coming into class, but some kids are playing hooky. 3 kids are playing hooky, and we have to figure out who's playing hooky. And every kid, their name starts with a different letter of the alphabet. So you have like a Sarah for S, or like I think it's like Asima for A or something like that. So every kid, there's 26 kids, each one is a letter, and we all have a hand of their cards. And we all have a hand of cards. And so we know certain letters. So we know there's certain letters that we know are in class. And you know that there's certain letters. And we have to figure out what letters everyone has by basically saying words. So like Paul may say, like, what's a good word? Like learn, Learn. And you say, hey, Ben, Learn, do you have any of these letters basically? And through this cross-examination, we are going to figure out who has what letters in their hands. It's kind of like Clue, like a
sure
more intense version of Clue
with children,
and letters and words. And like over the course of a few rounds, you're trying to figure out what letters are playing hooky. What did you think about this game, Paul?
I thought it was fun if I didn't break it. You know, like
Paul broke it.
It requires that you not make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, you kind of screw your other players. Like in this case, I forgot what banana. Right? It was a word. I counted 2 letters versus 3.
Yeah, and threw all the logic off, all the deduction off.
And so everyone was like, "What?" I go, "Oh, whoops, my bad." And I didn't win, but neither did anyone else.
You know, I played it another time after that. And the same thing happened. Judy had like a miss. She overlooked a letter, and so all of our logic was based off of like, oh, Judy doesn't have N, but she like had N or something like that. It's what's so funny about this game is that the artwork it's from Rio Grande Games, and it's like it's got this really sweet, adorable artwork, very cartoony. The theme is like kids going to class, like elementary school kids, and it just seems like this like adorable, fun little deduction game, and then you play it and it is so intense. It is wildly intense. Like you sit there and you're staring and you're doing logic and your brain is going in pretzels. I could not believe how much it was making my brain work.
Yeah, no, it's a deduction game, like, you know, in a way
purely deduction.
And you know, I think like deduction games that require that you're deducting against other people really accelerate the complexity of something. Like, you know, like you can go to LSAT and go like, Jennifer's house is like 4 blocks down from this person's house, and you know, and you can play that by yourself, and you have a certain amount of time to do it. But when there's other people's questions and your questions, and people aren't playing at the same level again, I think what winds up happening is like, and in this case, it's 11:30 at night. You're going like, oh my God, my brain is overloading. You know,
so hard.
I'm not understanding. No, banana has 2 A's. You know, like
it's also not a 5-letter word.
That's right. So it's all you know. It's fun for that thing. Yeah,
I have to say I love this game. I think this game is so good because I am someone who loves those logic puzzles where there's like a grid and you find something, you do the X's to the left and the X's up and down. If you like Sudoku, if you like those kind of logic problems, this game is really tailor made for you. It's a very quiet game because you're really in your own head. You're trying to figure things out. And it is fragile because if one person messes up, it messes up the whole game. But in a certain sort of way, like...
You have to be okay with that.
Yeah, it's not... I mean, like, yes, you're trying to win, but it's more about, like, when it all shakes out, did your logic pan out, you know? And it's... I love logic deduction, so I was a total fan of this game, and I love the brain burn. I love that it really made me think really deep and hard, and you're like you are triangulating between other people's answers and like, well, they said that like maybe there was an N here, but maybe there was an N here, but there's definitely something here, so that means the N has to be here, not there. And you're like going in these, it's like a beautiful mind moment, and I loved it.
Great.
Yeah, it's a fun little game if you want to sort of like get your brain, kind of massage your brain a little bit, you know.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I liked it. It was okay.
You looked like you were having a hard time. Like you were going like,
it was rough. It was rough. Because like
Paul. Paul's alarm's going off.
What you don't realize, or not even don't realize, it's like you're probably not going to get all the kids that are playing hooky.
No.
But like you're going to like, I should be able to do this. Yeah. I should be able to get all the kids playing hooky.
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling. So you
you think you will, but you don't. Okay, so let's move on to our review. Men-Nefer. Men-Nefer. This is designed by German P. Milan. That's what I'm going to say.
It's not P. Milan. It's Jermaine P. Milan.
I don't know how to pronounce it. If there's an A with an accent aigu on top of it, it's spelled German, but there's the A has a accent on it. So is it German?
That's what I would get. I would say German.
Yeah.
Like how would a French person say German?
Well, German, they wouldn't even say it because
I know, but if you were to put
Allemande.
But if you were a French speaker who
German.
Yeah, German. So there you go. So like that.
As a native non-French speaker, right. I will speak with authority.
But you were president of your French club.
I was president of my French club. Like, let's never forget that.
That's right. Like you know, just as I don't stop talking about how I used to live in Australia, like you just weave in as president of like, you know, the
1997. So this designer also designed Bitoku and Sabika. I've never played Sabika, but I think you played it, right, with Elder once. I remember you playing it.
Is that another like deserty game?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that or maybe it may have actually been South Asia, but I remember you playing it once and you did not look like you were having a lot of fun with it.
Well, you know, I don't like South Asian food generally.
Well, that one takes place in Granada, so you're off the hook because it's in Spain.
Oh.
But we both played Bitoku. We both reviewed Bitoku a few years ago.
Not a big like for us.
Yeah, we did not love it. It was a game that had a lot of buzz, but for us, it was just kind of like moving stuff around, and it was very busy, and it was just like generic Euro for us. So the designer in this game, the art is by Laura Bevon. So anyway, here from the designer of Peacock comes Men-Nefer. In this game, we are in ancient Egypt, and we are. I think the fluff is something about. I don't know what the fluff is. There's some stuff about like the afterlife. You know, getting your heart and the feather to be the same weight because that we all have access to the afterlife or whatever. But essentially, in this game that is set in ancient Egypt, there are going to be 3 rounds. There'll be no end game scoring, but there'll be scoring after every round. And in each round, each player is going to do 9 actions total. And there's 3 types of actions you can do. So you're going to do 3 types of actions 3 times. The first thing you do, that you can do is you can take your meeple from your player board and put it on the main board. Now, when you do that, you activate a tile that was next to your meeple. So think of it like, imagine there's a car, there's you, your car, and an office building. And
love it. I'm loving this already. Like,
so you're starting off in your car.
Yep.
So the first action is to get out of the car and go into the office building, right?
Sure.
So when you do that, your car has a special action.
Yeah.
So like maybe your car's action is like, oh, I get to go down a river.
Yeah. Love it.
I'm just trying to make it make more sense than saying meeple and tile and player board. So when you leave your car and go in the office building, you get your car action. And guess what you get to do? You get to throw out your car.
Well, but you have to get like these are like zip cars. So like
yeah. Oh, you know what it is? How about this? It's a city bike.
There you go.
So you get off your bike, you get your bike benefit, and then your bike gets returned, or it's a scooter. It's a lime scooter, or a bird scooter.
Great. And then you get to the office.
You get to the office,
and then you could do your office action.
And so your office action is basically you're getting in the elevator and deciding you're going up a floor.
And then the last action style of action is you get a new bike.
You get a new zip. You get a. You know what it is? It's like you know what? Actually, okay. Like I want to start the metaphor over. Okay, you can't drive. In this metaphor of ancient Egypt, you can't drive. You need to get an Uber. So when the first action is you get out of your Uber and your Uber drives away, and you go into the and you get your Uber. You get an action from you benefit from your Uber, whatever
whatever car it was.
Yeah,
you go and like whether it be great air conditioning or good suspension or good music, that's your Uber power.
So when you get out of your Uber and go into the office building, you get like whatever Uber you arrived in. That Uber came with a special action that you get to do. And then the second action is you get to go into an elevator.
Well, if we're going to be really clear, like if we're going to go with this all the way. You get into an elevator. Now you get to pick one of 6 floors that you could go, which correlate.
No, I'm gonna say no. You have to choose one of 6 elevator banks.
Wow. Okay, sure.
Because you're only allowed to. You only have security access to get to floor 1.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so your office building action is that you get to choose one of the 6 elevators, and you're going to go to one of the floors. Now, what this means in the actual game is your meeple. We said you take your meeple from your player board and put it on the board. So when your meeple basically slides over onto an area on the board, and that is basically a track, and you are going to gain experience on that track. You will move up on that track. Mm-hmm. So the first action is move from player board to big board. Second action is on big board. You basically activate a track and you gain experience and you get to do something on that track. So that is the equivalent of getting in the elevator and you go up to floor 1. But maybe if you're already on floor 1, you go to floor 2.
Well, technically, what it is like you get your person there. The moment you get out of your Uber, you have to pick your elevator.
Yeah.
Like basically,
yes, yeah, you're getting in line.
And then
I almost wonder if we're at an office park. And it's not even an elevator banks. It's more like, okay, is it an amusement park maybe?
There you go. This is much more Egyptian themed.
No, either way. So the point is that like, when you place your meeple down, when you take it from player board and put on the big board, you are choosing one of the tracks that you later on are going to activate and go up.
And then the last thing is like you go home. So you pick
to call an Uber,
a new Uber.
And what that basically means is you are selecting a tile that you are going to use next round when you take a meeple from your player board to the main board.
And then like by ordering that Uber, there are other benefits you get.
Yeah, exactly. When you take that tile, when you order the Uber.
I think we nailed it, Ben. I think
this is a very clear metaphor.
I think everyone who's listening to this knows exactly how to play the game now. We should just start.
The point is, in summary, one action is take a meeple from your player board, activate a tile that's associated with that meeple, discard the tile, and put that meeple on basically a track area. 1 of 6 tracks. The second thing you can do is you can basically say, I'm going to activate this track, and you're going to move up the track and get an action where you moved up to. potentially. And then the third thing you can do is get a tile to set up for next round, and then you'll get an action from doing that.
Yeah. So
it's really actually 3 very simple things.
Yes, not nearly as complicated as our Severance style description.
I thought our dystopian, workplace metaphor
Severance,
would work.
We're not sponsored by Severance.
I haven't seen Severance.
I haven't seen Severance either, but obviously this is what this is.
Honestly, it might have been a more fun theme. I mean, I like the theme, but that's I think it's always good to do interesting themes. So anyway, those are the things that you're doing, but as you activate your track, as you activate your Uber power, as you get a new Uber power, what you're doing is you are going to be engaging with several different areas of the board that do different things.
Little mini games.
Mini games. Well, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Are they mini games, or because our friend Tim said, I don't view these as mini games as much as areas to find activations, to activate things.
Sure, Tim.
Okay, mini games.
No, Tim is right. You don't get benefit necessarily from being higher on the areas.
You're not competing with people in these different areas.
There's no scoring of the areas. There's only scoring what these areas impact.
Right. So one area is one thing you can do is you can get mummies and turn them into sarcophagi, and then you place the sarcophagi
into the Palace of the Dead or whatever.
Yeah. So you can do that and you get benefits. Another thing you can do is you can build pyramids, which it's classic pyramid building.
Yeah.
You can build one big pyramid. There's a big pyramid you could build, or you can build the Queen's Pyramid, which is
one of
little
three
ones.
But they have in-game scoring.
Yeah, but the pyramids work in different ways. Another thing you can do is you can sail a boat down the Nile.
It's just Nile River.
Yeah. And another thing you can do is you can bring gifts. You can get gifts, and then you can bring gifts into a temple and offer them up
to the various gods. And that in turn will often let you ascend an obelisk track. Another thing you can do is you can build sphinxes. Catman.
Yeah. Is there anything else you can do? I think those are the main things. Yeah. That's it. It's the greatest hits of Egypt. Sphinxes.
Wow,
temples,
that is very reductive. Kind of
ancient Egypt, Nile. It's everything. It's everything you know and love.
Yeah, no, and I ranked this game as number 5 on my top 5 of 2024.
All right, you just jump right to your final conclusions.
No. I'm just saying that we had an episode and this was number 5.
Yeah, this is my number 6 actually.
Yeah, and so one of the things I really like about this is whereas Butoku I felt was very convoluted and I didn't really understand why I was doing a lot of things. It felt very mechanical in a way that was off-putting. This seems because there are only 3 moves, essentially times 3. I mean, times 3, 27 moves, right?
Yeah.
And it just seemed very simple, and the interactions were very complicated because there are other rules that we don't need to go into, but it impacts when you put this here and where, and so you wind up watching this tapestry unfold and you go oh, that was fun. I don't know how that's
I was honestly I've said this on the podcast, I bought this game kind of on a whim. I knew it was hard to get, and I was I got it and I was oh no, it looks so dry, and it's Butoku, maybe this was a mistake. But I've been very surprised with this game. I think that first of all, one of the things that it does really well is it plays with timing. It's a game kind of there's a lot of brinksmanship and timing in it. So there's certain things that you're always going to do at the start of a round. You have to move some people. You have to move someone.
You have to get Uber.
Yeah, you have to get out of the Uber and into the office building.
Yeah.
Because you can't do office building actions without someone being in there first, right? So you have to get someone off your player board onto the main board. But then once that happens, then things get really interesting because it's got that Concordia thing where the first person to a spot, they can go there for free. Then the second person has to pay fish, and the fish is the currency. So you have to pay fish. And then the more people that are there, the more fish it costs, and fish are it's tight currency. So you are constantly thinking, well, I really want to do this thing. I really want to go up the Nile, let's say, but I would
rather in my way. It's going to cost me some fish.
Or like no one's there right now, so it's free. So I want to do this, but it's more important for me to do this action first. And can I reasonably do this action and before I do that thing? Like it's all about figuring out the timing of how to do all these things.
It's the considerations of when you do stuff. And I think maybe that's what Bitoku was missing in some ways.
Bitoku is similar because with Bitoku, there was an element of like moving a meeple from your player board onto the main board, and then once it's there, you slide it up to another area. So like it has kind of a similar DNA, but it felt kind of like it just didn't feel as interesting in a weird way.
Yeah. Like I would hate for people to like map out Bitoku. Like, just so you know, Bitoku and Men-Nefer are the exact same game, just in different themes.
It could be, but like sometimes it's just a few tweaks that take something from being like a perfectly fine but sort of generic experience to something that's like really firing on all cylinders. And I think that like Men-Nefer, what I like about the timing considerations in the game is that it creates a very tense tabletop experience. Like I found in that first game, my heart was racing the entire game. I was on the edge of my seat because I was like, oh my God, please don't go there. Please. It's like a game where everyone is groaning at all times, like constantly getting in people's way.
Yeah, no, I'm always basically the reason why I made my top 5 was like, oh, this is much, it exceeds its pieces. Like, you know, I go like, I understand all of this and interactions. I think I understand. And yet the fun, I've never won it. You know, the fun of it, like the fun of getting from beginning to end is much greater than my understanding of the individual pieces.
Right. So if you don't like mini games, how do you think people will feel about this game?
I don't see them as, I think probably Tim is probably right. Like, you know, I don't, because you don't need you beating me on the mummy palace placement isn't really going to, like if you are beating me there, but I'm just crushing on the river, on the Nile, it doesn't matter. Like you probably don't need to be a part of all the games. Right. And in fact, if you try to, that's probably going to be detrimental.
Yeah. I think these are like mini games the way Marrakesh has mini games, which is like, you could say they're mini games because it looks like there's just like different areas of the play area that you can do things on. But I see them more as like the culmination of strategy, right? Like, I'm going here to get something. I'm either going to come here to this quote unquote mini game to get a resource. Or I'm going to come here to score something, but I'm not actually engaging with it in a game like way that I would in maybe like Gugong or Trajan.
Sure. Like, you know? I'm rarely engaging you on a game level for any area. Like, you know, where I go like, oh, I need to do this in order to improve my strategy. It's basically, I'm going to this area and hopefully it will give me something that I need. Yeah. But I'm not playing against you. The best that you can do is like, you happen to take what I need.
Yeah. I mean, you're only playing against people in that like a lot of them have like limited spots. Like it's a game of scarcity. Like it's all races. Everything is a race in this game.
Yeah. 100%.
Do you have a favorite of the mini games?
I always try to play the river and I always lose. Like there was a point where I tried to go up the obelisk and then there was other people who just did it a lot better than me. And
I did have a triumph of sneaky in I think our second game where you were just like at the top of that obelisk just killing it, and you were like, Ben is so far away, and I don't remember what I did.
You won by 1 point.
Yeah, because I had like a last minute like surge up the obelisk, and you were like, where did you come from up the obelisk?
I think what happened,
it's great for me,
where I didn't take into account was your pyramid play.
I don't remember what my pyramid play was in that.
I think you just had a couple of points in the pyramids, you know, in the building of the pyramids that wound up giving you just like you were really far behind. Like, you know, in that game, there was, I think any betting person would have bet on me, and it didn't work out. And that's why, like, I will never forgive you.
Well, I think that my favorite of those mini games, I think I also really like the river, only because first of all, it seems refreshing because it's a river.
Sure.
In the desert. A very sandy board.
In the desert.
But also, I think it's fun. Like if you get your boats past certain places you get fish income, and that feels nice. The fish income, it feels really, really nice. And you get contracts, and like it's a fun, straightforward area. Do you have a least favorite of these mini games?
I feel like there are games that are underpowered. I think not all games are the exact same power level. I think the Sphinx game is underpowered.
Yeah.
Like the things that you have to do in getting those things that you want, like from there, probably takes a little more time than it could.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest underpower. I
think the Sphinx game is, because it's really just kind of like a jack of all trades. This, you use the Sphinxes to kind of basically do something in another area that you didn't really specialize in. Like if you're not really big on the pyramid building track, you can still do a Sphinx action to kind of do some cool pyramid stuff, even though you're not very experienced. Sure. I would say that like overall though, when you look at all the individual mini games, none of them are very sexy. They're actually very simple and kind of unremarkable. It's shocking how much I enjoyed this game, given like that. If you were to say, okay, so what do you do on the in the mummy area? It's like, you take a mummy and you put it down. It's like, and you get like rewards.
Well, I actually think the greatest skill is making bland plus.
Bland plus, yeah.
I think because this is not a jab. Once again, number 5 on my thing. Like the only thing that I find really fun is the fact that you have 3 moves 3 times. Mm-hmm. Go to the office, get your city bike or Uber. Go into on the floor that you need to go to, take another Uber. Mm-hmm. And that interaction is so rich, though you wouldn't think so, that it really doesn't need all the other stuff. In fact, in some ways, if it were more interesting, it would diminish.
I agree 100%. I think actually the designer was very smart to sort of edit it and not make it overly fussy. It's definitely a game where you are comboing. So you put a mummy down here, you get a benefit there that you then apply to this thing here to do the river thing there. And you're doing all these mini games as usual. They all kind of like interconnect in a certain way, and some interconnect more with each other than others by design. Like the gifts obviously really are connected to the temple, and the temple is really connected to the obelisk, and the obelisk is really good for unks, and the unks give you scrolls, and the scrolls are good for, there's a feather thing, and then the feather can move across with a heart, and you get the heart and the feather to build. Like it all kind of
plays together.
But I agree that I think if it were more like if there was more pizzazz in these areas, like little area control stuff or whatever, make them more mini games ish, it would kind of break. It would be the straw that would break the camel's back.
Like it reminds me of, I was watching this History Channel kind of thing about tanks in World War II and how the Soviets had, I guess were the Soviets then or were they just Russia? Oh, Soviets, right? I can't remember.
World War II?
Yeah.
Soviets
had these cheap tanks and a lot of them. That the tanks were just like near poorly made, like blah, blah, blah. And like a German general captures a tank and goes to the German engineers, goes, make me this tank. I want this tank. And the German engineers spend a year and they make the tank, but like, not to be overly like stereotyping, but can't make a crappy thing. So they make this better tank, that has all these things. It just takes more time to make. It just takes more, it's more expensive to make and all these things. And the Soviets just won through attrition, but making these cheap tanks and just piling them through, like the better German tanks could not compete with sheer mass of the other. And so in this way, like trying to make these mini games into better German tanks actually, I suspect, may divert from the actual fun of the game.
Right. Because like the real fun of the game
is the 3 actions.
Is the 3 actions, the timing, and that's where the interaction is really the strongest. Like there's interaction in terms of like vying to, like there's only a certain amount of spaces that Sphinxes can go into, but the real interaction is like the timing of when you take things off of your player board and put them on the main board, when you go from the main board to slide it over onto the tracks, and when you take piece tiles from the tile display to go for next turn. And like, And that is like the crux of it. And that's why there's so many groans. People are not necessarily groaning because someone delivered something in the temple. Like you might get a groan from that, but the groan is because, oh, you just went there and now it cost me 5 fish to go there instead of 3, and I should have done this instead. And it's like it's delicious.
And I suppose in a way, this is why it's so interactive, because you are competing with these people, and the cost, it's not you can't do it. It just costs you fish. The problem is you don't have fish.
Yeah. The fish come and the fish go.
And so in this way, like this is not a game that I would naturally go like, oh, this is a good game.
Same.
Like this is a game where I go, this is dry. It's in the desert. It's the palette is very plain. But when you put it all together, you're like, oh, it's actually very slick. I hope it's by design as opposed to luck. You're like, oh, you knew enough not to make this busy. Mm-hmm. You knew enough just to make these simple tracks, and you focused more on the gameplay than the clever.
Yeah. And by the way, I just want to say, graphic design wise, I thought this game was very strong. Mm-hmm. I thought like everything was shockingly clear. There was like two small notes, which is that there's an icon for points that are like, it's like red circle, and then there's an icon for movements on the heart track, and it's like red like heart like in your body, and those are very similar. So that's a small thing that they could have. It just would have been. Never was actually an issue, but like it should just be something you have to keep an eye out for. And I wish they had differentiated them a little bit. And the other thing is, there's like this really subtle thing that I never encountered in my plays, because I was really sure when I taught it to be like, hey, keep an eye out for this. But I can imagine other people missing it, which is like there are you can like move up the temple track. You can move up in the temple, and you can also move up in the temple and give a gift. And how you can do that is like this tiny, like there's like a lady holding it. There's a lady who it's like a priestess, and she has her hands out. And if she's allowed to give a gift, she has a little basket in her hands. And it's so subtle, but almost in how ridiculous it is that like, oh, you got to look for her holding a basket. It's so stupid. Like, oh, really? This is how they differentiated a basket in her hands. I actually find that because it's so silly and so stupid, that I'm actually so hyper aware of it, because I'm like, does she have a basket? Is there a basket in her hand?
I wonder how much they play tested this game, because it's really like I'm always talking about elegant, and I'm going like, oh, the choices here are a lot more like it's a rare game that I go like, oh. Because I'm not Trey, I go, oh, the design choices here are sophisticated. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I usually go, it works, it doesn't work. I care, I don't care. But I look at this and go like, oh, this is very sophisticated in a way that I'm very like, it could be luck. Mm-hmm. It could literally just be like, oh, or it could be that I've learned from my last 2 games and now I'm refining it in a way. And it's not refining it in a way I'm going to make a new, completely different game. It's like I'm going to refine the game that it's in my head. Like if yeah, I just,
are there like where are some areas you think that the game could be improved?
I love the river.
Game?
What?
Okay. Yeah, I was like, is it a perfect game? You seem stymied.
Well, it's tough because like I could. The simple thing would be like, let me answer it in a roundabout way. I don't know how they could expand this game and keep the game. I think it would just slow it down and make it not what I want to play. I could say some version of like the King's track is a little underpowered, and you can rebalance maybe the Sphinx track a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I don't think
there's part of me that also says like, I think I've played it 4 times now. But there's part of me that says, I don't know if these things are unbalanced, because I have found that in different plays of the game, different things pop off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the last game that I played, I did the Queen's track, which is that I got, it's like you get certain points for, I don't remember what it was like for having gifts.
For a variety of gifts.
And I maximized that, and I got I got a ton of points off of that. And then there were some games where like the Queen's track did like nothing. And like different parts of the game really come to life depending on player actions or whatever. So things that have felt like maybe not as balanced, maybe they would be more balanced. Maybe they are like the strong thing in a different session and we haven't like hit it yet.
Like in the end, like I feel like, let me rephrase this. I'm always impressed with a game that knows what it is. And this game seems to me to know what it is. But Toku did not seem to me to know what it is. But like this game, I was like, this is so surprising. Like, oh, everything here works in a way that is precision.
It feels like a precision game. It feels like clean in a weird way, even though it's not clean because there's all these combos you're doing. There's something kind of elegant in its
like the cleanliness loops. In its thought. And I think that's why I when you ask me how could this improve or what's the weak part of the game, I can only speak to my experience and like, oh, the Sphinxes didn't seem to be that powerful, like, and compared to like,
I have a weak point.
Okay.
Or it's not a weak point. It's a point I would like to see maybe massaged a little bit, which is that when you get tiles, for the next round, the tiles have little icons. Is it the tiles that have icons? Yeah, the tiles have icons on them. Maybe it'll have like a stork, maybe it'll have a snake, maybe it'll have whatever. And on your player board, you have a little track. And you have a cube on the track, and the track is full of these icons. And if you take a tile from the display and the icon on that tile matches the next icon on your track, you can move your cube forward a slot. And the rewards for moving up that track, most of the rewards are just a single point. And then, but there are two areas there where they afford you a free big track movement on the main board. So like, we haven't really talked about this. I feel like we haven't really described this, but like each track on the game board lets you do one of the mini games better. So like the sarcophagus track, you can place a higher level sarcophagus. Yeah. So like you going up these tracks makes these mini games better and better. And so this player board track, there are two opportunities to sort of advance on one of the main tracks,
which is worth a lot,
which is cool. But then there's but it kind of feels like
it peters out.
Yeah, the second track movement bonus you get on that is after that it's just like single points, and sometimes it just feels like a single point here. I don't know. It's like a total like maybe 6 or 7 points, and it feels like they probably mathed it out that it's probably significant to get those extra points, but it feels like at the end of the game where each module could be getting you between 15 or 18 points, it feels like I want that to be more significant, because sometimes what happens is you say, you know what, it's less important for me to worry about this track than it is just to get the tile that I need for next round. And I would like that choice between what tile you take versus how much you need it for the action versus how much you need it to go up your tile track to be a little bit more robust.
Okay, sure.
That would be a good thing for expansion. Expansion, I think, could maybe offer some.
Sure.
Why do you think they didn't add more sizzle to that track?
I think, if I were to be that way about it, like I imagine if it was perfectly game tested and all that stuff, I'd imagine like, oh, well, after the second big track bump, they didn't want to have that be like the way. Do you remember Russian railroads?
Yes. And
towards the end, like this is a little like industry track, and it gets points, and at the end, like it's worth 30 points. It's like a big bit. I think maybe they go like, oh, we don't want this mechanism to be the 30 points. We don't want people to spend.
Yeah, or maybe it's also because you don't have as much control over those tiles. Like one thing that happens a lot in the game is that people are like, okay, I need a snake tile so I can move up my little track. And then because of the flop or whatever, a snake tile does not show up forever. And maybe it's that they don't want players to feel like, well, I could have had all these things, but I was at the mercy of the flop of the draw, and that's like not fair. So this way it's kind of like, well, you are at the mercy, but you're not really losing that much.
That's right. And it's end game as well. Whereas like the other, eventually those, all the things that you need will come up.
Yeah.
To move up your big tracks. But
and there is there's like a contract that's like, if you make it to the end of your personal track, you can get 7 points or something, or you get something. I don't know, but
like, it's actually quite a feat to get to the end of that track, because
it's really hard.
You have to be perfect in every single tile draw you do, and that may not be possible.
I guess it's sort of surprising that those points are not cumulative. Like you don't score those every round. It's just like a one time, like point, and that's it.
Maybe they are, and we're just messing it up.
It could be that we just are messing up. I don't know. It could be my own fault. Who do you think this game is for?
People who, I mean, technically it's point salad-y, right? I mean, this is
I guess. Yeah.
So I think people who like point salad, I think, like, I don't think if you are playing, say, Agricola, this is going to be a long-lasting game for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's for people who, it's a midweight Euro, and I think a lot of things, there are some interesting meaty decisions, and we play it in a way that takes a lot of time, but I don't actually think it needs to take that much time.
Yeah, I think this is just like standard Euro. Like if you like Euros, this is perfect for you.
Yeah.
If you are someone who wants to play like a war game, or you want to play like Guards of Atlantis or something like that, this may not.
Guardians of Atlantis,
just the guards.
That's right.
Just guarding that island,
or Windmill Valley, or
if you like Windmill Valley, then yes, you will.
That's
I think
right.
you will like this. I think if you are someone that wants to play like a Colwhirly something game, like this one may not be as exciting for you.
I have a gendered perspective. I assumption that I didn't realize I had.
What's that?
Like, I just assume that Egyptian theme is something that men prefer. Like,
really?
Like, yeah.
I never thought about it either way.
Yeah. It just occurred to me as we were talking.
Like the ancient Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Holy Roman Empire.
And so, like, I don't know if that's true. If someone, if someone proved me otherwise, just let me know. Like, I just realized I had that.
I don't know if it necessarily has to be that way, because I think that there's a lot of like very feminine qualities to ancient Egypt that we see also portrayed.
Yeah, I don't know. Like someone can tell me. Like,
someone tell us. Like, do women like ancient Egypt as much as men?
Like are Egyptologists? Like,
do men like it?
Like men to women? I don't know. But I just, like, sitting right here, I go like, oh, am I being gendered?
Maybe it's really big with like non-binary folks.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Like, I was just like, oh, that's weird. I didn't think of that. Huh? Yeah. Why would I think that?
Okay, I have another question pertaining to this game that I think is actually a very important one, and this could also maybe tie into, could this game be improved or not? Mm-hmm. But scaling with lower player counts. Now, I have not played this at 2, and I've not played solo, but I've played 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And
I really like. We started with 4, and then we played at 3, and I really like the 3.
3 worked really well.
I don't know how with 2. It flips on the other side, right? Is there?
I'm actually not even sure that it flips to the other side. The other side may just be solo, but I could be wrong.
But like at 3, it's good. Like I don't know. Like ultimately, like at 3, what happens is like the automa. You
get there's some little pieces that's like NP. They get put in the office building.
Yeah, exactly. and they just make it harder for you.
They just make they make certain spots more expensive, and they sort of flitter through. They rotate down a conveyor belt.
And so in that what it's like the Kanban lady. What's her name?
Sandra.
In some ways, it's Sandra-esque, and I sort of feel like, oh yeah, this everyone comes at it as like, oh, here's another obstacle together that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think it deals with it appropriately.
Yeah, I thought it played really well at 3. Mm-hmm. I think 4 was best, but it doesn't mean that you can't play it at 3. 4 was best because you have the most competition for both those tracks and also for all the things happening on the board. And one thing that I would have liked to have seen with like the 3-player setup is that, yes, we get some sort of like player pieces on the tracks, so that variable spots are going to become more expensive for fish. But like, I think there should have been something so that like some of the Sphinx spots are closed off, some of the sarcophagus spots are closed off, some of the places where you donate gifts are closed off, and maybe some of like the areas in the Queen's Temple are closed off, just so it would just tighten it up a little bit. Because it's like this game, what works so well is when with 4 players, it feels like there's such, like I said before, it's a race. Everything's a race. Mm-hmm. And so like it feels like, oh my God, if I miss this opportunity, I might not be able to do this thing. And it sort of it opens up a little bit at 3 players, which maybe some people may enjoy that more. But I think that there should be some sort of like mini expansion with that first variable setup where it just like closes off certain areas just to tighten the screws on us, because the game is at its best when it is like throwing you up against the wall, I think.
Yeah, no, love it.
Was it fun? Last question. Is it fun? It wasn't fun.
No, not at all. Like I think I have probably about 5 more games of it in me.
Okay.
So I think as far is it fun? It is 8 games fun.
Well, actually, I forgot to talk about variability, but I am going to fold that into my final thoughts, which is that I think this game is way more fun than it actually looks. Way more fun than I thought it would be, despite the fact that I bought it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I enjoyed how tense it was, and I found it to be like oddly exciting. I found it to be like oddly immersive. I don't know why it shouldn't be immersive, but I did feel like I was in this Egyptian land here,
the Egyptian buffet.
And what I was so impressed with is that like it's the sort of game where you think, okay, well, I went down the river last time and I killed it down the river, so I might as well just go back. I'll do the river strategy again because I liked it. It was easy for me, but it's one of those games that creates subtle variability that like you may decide you're going to go down the river, but based on the tiles you have and based where other people go, you suddenly find yourself drifting into a whole other area of the game. And so it looks like a game that doesn't have a lot of variability, and maybe there's something samey about like the playing loop, but in terms of like how the board, like where the board is going to be explosive and where it's going to be more dormant, that has changed in every game for me in ways that I couldn't predict. It wasn't like we changed anything with setup. It's just like the tiles you start with.
Sure. No.
And I think that's really cool. That's like Hansa Teutonica for me, where it's always kind of like the same board. I love Hansa, but like the gameplay creates the dynamic, fluid, movements in it, which I really dug.
I think in that Hansa is a good way of. I do not love Hansa, but I respect it, and I think it's excellent. And that's how I feel about this game, where I go like, oh, like it hit top 5 because it really surprised me, and it did all these great things at the same time. Like eventually, it's gonna get to a point where I go like, oh, I've hit I get it.
Yeah, I put this in the same category as like a Teletum.
Sure,
like Teletum is super fun, but it has that kind of dry old Euro feel to it.
And I've stopped playing Teletum.
Yeah. But I used to really love Teletum, and then I had a session where someone complained a lot, and then it kind of took some of the, they complained and also had AP, and it kind of like took some of the joy out of it. But I think I want to go back to Teletum because I used to love Teletum. But I think it's like that same thing where it's like you're making combos, you're making the best of what you can do. Yep. It's dry, it's beige.
Yep.
I actually, believe it or not, I really like the color palette in this game. It's great, like gold and like a kind of a green blue. It's great. Okay, well, we both really like Men-Nefer. Everyone should check it out. You're number 5. My number 6. Only number 6. It would have been higher, except there was just 5 exceptional games in front of it. But that's basically all we have to say about that. You've been listening to Game Brain, produced and edited by Matthew Robinson, Tom Donnelly, Trey Alsop, and Ben Mandelker. Special thanks to Daedalus for our incredible music. More on Daedalus at GameBrainPod.com, and thanks to Edamar Peleg for our incredible graphics. Be sure to check him out at Instagram at Kerbaloni or on his website, Kerbaloni.com. You can reach us by email at contact@GameBrainPod.com. Thanks for listening, and go play some games with friends or make some friends with games.
Bow.